So Nige back here again, and it's time for another build video. This time we're looking at Eduard's F-5. So this is the AFV boxing of it, and I'm going to be doing it in a South Vietnamese scheme, ready for our club at Telford. As always, this type of kit starts with the cockpit. So you can see me just there, just snipping off the parts, getting them all ready, getting them all prepped. And then gluing them together before we then start looking at priming and adding photo etch and all that good stuff. So this kit does come with a sweeper photo etch for the seat and all that sort of stuff. This, as you can see, it's got some injection pin marks, so I'm just getting rid of those. There is going to be a plate that goes in here for the photo etch, so it should hide all those, but I just want to make sure it sits properly. So you can see some more parts which are quite fiddly that need removing and adding. So I'm just using my knife just to get rid of those little bits as they go through, just like so. And then I'll give them a quick sand as best I can, a quick scrape, and then we'll put the photo etch on. So for the photo etch, I always use a tile and like a chisel type blade on my craft knife. And sorry, I've just made myself seasick as watching this because of the shake. Sorry about that. So yeah, so all I'm doing is just using that little wedge type knife to cut off on a hard surface a tile in this instance. Once that's done, I will try and cut the nubs as close as can with this knife, and then I will then use a sanding stick or a bit of sandpaper or sometimes a file and get rid of those little bits. And as you can see, there's the photo etch. There's me using some Meng sanders. They're really good, those sanders. I can't highly recommend them. If you can't find the Meng ones, there's the display ones, very similar. So you can see I'm just clamping it between a pair of pliers. I might use, a pair of tweezers. I might use some pliers, and the pliers I use don't have any teeth. So when you come to actually hold it, the teeth won't damage the photo etch, and you should get a good grip. And because it's a flat surface, I can butt it right way up, so it's just a nub showing. So when I sand it, I'm not going to damage any of the other parts. So there you can see me clamping like what I said before, and I'll move it slowly into the jaws. And because like I said, it's got a flat blade, I can get really close in there. I can also bend it as well with those pliers. And now the fiddly bit, actually gluing it to the plastic. I've just got some Gorilla Glue that I use, and as you can see, I'm struggling like Billy-O because I hate photo etch. I really do hate photo etch, but it does enhance the actual model itself. So there's me still fighting with it off screen, which I apologise for. Come on, numpty. Look, there we are. Yep, so go on, you know you can do it. There we are. Go on, stay. Off the screen again, what a numpty. Yeah, but you can see that I'm struggling with it, and it is one of those things that if I could hold it there properly, I will get some activator, but it's a little bit more awkward on these little parts, so it can be quite a little bit of a challenge, if I'm honest. So I will carry on with this, and I will see you in a bit. So next bit, starting putting bits together. With this kit, it's a good kit, but you have to take some care with it. So you can see I've put a little bit of plastic on either side of this part to help line everything up and hopefully get a good join. Now you'll see throughout the video when I build some other parts that I do a lot of test fitting, especially with the fuselage here to the main wings. There was a little bit of test fitting there. Some of the actual grills at the back, you can just see it's covering by my thumb. I had to put a shimmer of plastic card in there just to hold it in the right place, and so forth, so on. But now we're going back to the cockpit, and I'm going to prime this, and I just used Mr. Hobby Aqueous primer. So it's like the Mr. Surfacer 500, but they're 1000, but they're acrylic version. So you can see there I've just got a clamp on holding one of the parts in, and yeah, it's just a case of painting all these parts black, making sure I get decent coverage, and yeah, once it's on, it self levels, and it's a really nice primer, easy primer to use. Now it's just a quick blast with Mr. Hobby H 321 for the cockpit, and as you can see I'm just putting it in there and trying to leave the edges a little bit proud, and where there's panel lines a little bit, not going over them. So I'm just putting a light dusting coat at the moment, and then I'll go back and hopefully I can add some shadowing by not pouring as much paint on those areas. That will give me a sort of it's not a shadow as such, but giving the cockpit more depth, so to speak. And then I can come along and I can do the other weathering with some panel line washes and all that sort of stuff. So this is one of my homebrew oil washers, and I'm just using an old cleaned out Tamiya pot. So I'm using sepia oil, and in this I'm actually using lighter fluid from a Zippo lighter and what have you. You can use odorless thinners, you can use anything really like that, but reason I'm using the Zippo fluid, it's not as strong as some other thinners that we can use for oils and enamels. So it's a little bit more gentle, and that means it's not going to damage the paint before. Even though I have put a gloss coat on this to protect the paint, and that gloss coat was acrylic, the oil shouldn't damage it, but I want to make sure that it's not that abrasive. So that's why I use the light fluid, and it seems to work really well. I've made up a few of these different colour combination oils. I had 4 empty bottles, so I've made them up in 4 empty bottles, you know, light grey and stuff like that, which I'm sure you'll see on some other videos. Then once it's dry, I can get a cotton bud or a cloth, and I can start removing all the excess, and as you can see, it's coming away really well. It's not so much an issue. We've just dampened it and removing it. If you want to remove more, just get your odorless thinners and you can remove it. If you want to manipulate it, get a brush damp with odorless thinners, and then you can manipulate it and put it where you want. Now it's time to joint the 2 parts of the fuselage, the lower and the upper part. And you can see here I am just taking my time. I'm test fitting, seeing where it fits. If some needs removing, I'll just get a sanding stick and remove it. And then I will test fit again, remove again before then I start committing to glue. And I start having a lot of fun with some of my clamps that I use. So I'll start pinging off it all over the place. One just missed my face when I was doing it. So yeah, you can have a lot of fun with doing this, but just, you know, take your time. Here we are, watch. Here we go. And then which one goes? Yep, so they both come off then. I put it back on. The little bit, and the end goes off. Get another clamp knife, put that back on, and then here we go. Just a minute. Ping. Yep. So it can be a lot of fun trying to get your clamps to stay where you want them. Yes, you can use tape, but sometimes it doesn't give enough clamping pressure. Trying again with the clamps, it's not going to fit on, so I get a peg and then give that a go. And just persevere until they're all nicely clamped. Next up, we start looking at rescribing. So really on this kit, only places that really need rescribing are the nose, just there, and underneath. So using the Hasegawa Cry Tool and a Trumpeter P cutter, you can use a Tamiya one, you can use a needle in a vise, you know, it doesn't really matter, just as long as you take it nice and slow, a few light passes, and you should be able to put that lost detail away. There's me knocking the camera again, sorry about that. Then we're going to start painting. So with Mr. Hobby 311, I've mixed it around about 70-30 paint to thinner ratio. As you can see, my needle nozzle was a little bit loose, so it spluttered everywhere. And all I'm doing, I am just putting a rough coat on there, okay, just to start with, and then I'll start filling in the parts to give me more definition on the panel lines. But at the moment, this is just a misty coat that's going on. Once I've done this, which I'll show you later on in the video, I lighten it and then darken it, so I can then get lighter in the center of the panel lines and darken on the actual panel lines themselves, which you'll see in a minute, I believe. So come on now, get on with it. And there you are, you can see where I've lightened and darkened the panel lines in the centre of panels, and then I can put another mist coat on over the top. So this is going to knock everything back, and this will just give me a really weathered sort of look. Once we've done this, I will then mask it all off with white tack and tape, and then we can crack on with the actual camouflage side on the top. So starting off with the lightest colour, so Mr. Hobby 310 for this, the brown, and I'm just putting it in there. I'm not bothered about panel lines or anything like that. I will come back and deal with that later. I will lighten it where I lighten it. I think I put some buff, and Nige, get it back in the camera. What a numpty. Come on, there we are. A little bit of colour. So then I'm adding the colour, and then I will, in a minute, I will lighten that colour, and then I will darken the colour again for the centre of panel lines and the panel lines themselves. And that will give me the look I'm after, which is not an overly worn look, but a jet that's, you know, in operation every day. So now I'm adding some buff. So the buff will lighten it, and this will go into the centre of panels. I've added a couple of drops, but I thin the paint right down, so I've added a lot more thinner now. So it's really quite thin. I've knocked the air pressure back. I don't know where I've put it on, but I've got a MAC valve on the bottom of my airbrush, so then I can use that to control that paint. Once we've done that, we can then start looking at the other colours, and I'm using Mr. Hobby 303 for the intermediate green, and on the fuel tanks, after I've done the bottom, it's green all over. And again, I will do the same process. I will lighten it, and then I will darken it, so we will get a lot of what they're saying. It is all going to look very similar. So it's not as if I'm using a different type of weathering or whatever on the each individual parts. And what I want is that it's looking the same across the board. So that's the fuel tanks, and that will be done again on the green on the actual aircraft. So you can see there, I'm putting the green down itself now. So these white tack worms, I've made them quite small, so they're quite low, quite flat, so there's not much not fading. What's the word? You know, where it goes in, and it's not diffused, so it's going to be quite a sharp outline. That's what I'm hoping for. If I wanted to make it more diffused, I would make these tackworms a lot bigger, so when you put your colour down, it sort of like gives you a blurred impression of the actual camo, which you will find on some aircraft, and you will find on others. You'll have really sharp demarcation between the colours. Bear in mind, this is a 3-colour aircraft, so well, 4 if you count the bottom. And again, I'm going to add some buff to it, so XF57. And now I'm going to lighten the panel lines, so you can see me there. Hopefully, lighten the panel lines and getting all nicely weathered, making sure I go up to the white tack, so you're filling in all the other parts correctly. So now I'm adding in Hobby's Mr. Hobby 59, and this will pick out all the panel lines. Okay, So with all the panel lines, you will then see all the shadows and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to show you painting the third colour because it's the same process. Mask off with blue tack worms, spray the actual camo colour, and then lighten and then darken the panel lines. And remember, when you lighten and darken these parts, you want the paint to be really, really thin so you can build up the look over time. And that will give you a proper red look. And then after that, I will then put a mist coat over. So now we're moving on to the decals. So these are the Eduard decals, and they're the new type. So same as I always do, a little bit of water. They release from the backing paper really quickly. Once that's done, you can then look at putting some microset and microsol. I always put set on, move it into place, and then I would make sure I get rid of all the water and air from underneath it. Before then, I look at letting it dry, so then I can cut into the actual decal if needed. With these, I didn't do that because the Eduard decals with the carrot film on the top. So you can see I'm having to move it, and then what you'll find, I think I move it back again because I've got it in totally the wrong place. There we are, numpty. So now I'm going to get my cotton board, I'm going to dab it down, make sure it's nice and straight, and then roll onto it. Once it's dry, I'm going to leave that. Once I've done them all, I'm going to leave them all for overnight, and then I'm going to put some the other micro sol on it, which will then bed it down. Now to remove this carrier film. Now there's many different ways. So the best way I found was just to use some white tack. You see, I'm just gently pulling it up, and now look, I can pull it off, and I'm being gentle because it's white tack. It's not really that sticky, okay, but it just allows me to gently tease the clear part up, and with that it means that you're going to get your decals. And yes, they do look really good, but is it needed? I'm not so sure. Okay, as you can see, look, I'm just getting to the last bit, and then on all the decals, that I don't do it on all the small ones because I'm worried about taking up the small ones, but on all the decals I will go down and do this process. So the ones over the top of the actual fuel and on the tail and what have you. And bear in mind, all these decals went on a gloss coat. Okay, so they all went on a gloss coat to help with them adhering. Once that's done, another gloss coat over the top, and I can then come in with some oil washers to pick out the panel lines. So again, I'm using the sepia oil wash, okay, that I did earlier, which you saw earlier on, and with this thin tip on my on the brush, you can see that I can get actually really into all the little nooks and crannies and stuff like that to give me the control I want. Once that is done, I then remove. I just remove with a bit of kitchen paper, so you can see I've done the whole aircraft there, or a kitchen towel or something. And then look, so this is a dry kitchen towel, because it's on a glass surface. It's just wiping off where I don't want it to be. If it was really, really stubborn, I just get some I just get some odorless thinners and damp my cotton wool and whatever in there. And there you can see the aircraft, we all painted, all decaled, and all with a wash. I'm going to start moving on to some of the weathering now. So on the tanks, I'm just making them look dirty. I'm just using XS 64, and that will help pick out some of the dirt. Okay, so you can see I'm just putting some really, really thin, and I mean thin, like 10% paint to thinner, and I'm just adding that nice and gently on there to create that look of dirt. So on the underside where I thought dirt might accumulate, because I'm thinking, well, would they have the trolleys and what have you, and then in a bit I'll add some some oils and what have you. So now I'm going to add some chipping. So I've already put some silver paint on a sponge, but I'm also going to use watercolour pencils. So I've got different types of watercolour pencils. These are Derwent ones, I've got metallic ones, and I've got normal. And this allows me to add chips and what have you, add scratches, add actual leaks. I'm also going to use a normal pencil, just a lead pencil. You've got different HB types and what have you that you can use. Now I'm going to add a scratch. Okay, so I can just get a scratch made, and just going to draw along it so I can get a straight line, and then I can add some like little bits coming off. It's really gentle. So all I'm doing is trying to replicate wear and tear on these tanks. If I don't like what I'm doing, I can then remove this with water. As simple as that. Really easily with water. Again, I'm just adding some more chips and what have you with watercolour pencil. If I want to, I can get a sponge with some water on it and dab my pencil in that sponge, and I will get, you know, a more intense colour, more pigmented colour. So then I can you know, make it more pronounced. And I'm just going through and just adding dots, scratches, you know, on that bit there because it's protruding. You know, it might be a little bit metallic, so I'm just using the side of the pencil. Same on the strap, just using the side of the pencil just to add a little bit of, you know, chipping, a little bit of wear. And then the last bit of the weathering, which will be coming up in a minute, I'm going to be using just to do some oil streaks. Now, the underside of this aircraft, I found some really interesting filthy pictures. So what I'm going to try and do is replicate what you're seeing on the screen now, with the oils. And I'm just going to put the oils on and drag back with a damp brush, with a damp, odorless thinner, and you can see I'm just putting it on. And the brush I'm using, it's a very old brush. The bristles are solid, so it allows me just to put little bits of oil where I want it, and then in a minute I'll come in and I'll start dragging it back from where I've put it on. So my brush now with some thinners on is just going to be, I'm going to dip it in, but it's going to be, I want to get rid of most of it. Okay, get rid of most of it, and then I can just put it back, and then I can add more oil as and when needed until I get what I want, which is a filthy belly of my aircraft. So I'm just going to go through, add streaks and what have you to this, just little streaks as you can see just there. I can then blur them with my brush, add more muck and stuff like that. And once we've done all that, we've got a completed Eduard F-5. Now this was a really nice little build. I really enjoyed it. It went together fairly well, but it just needed a little bit care and attention. Anyway, I hope you like the videos, and if you do, can give me a like and a subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now, fellas.